Hi, I'm Ilya from Game Changer Audio, and welcome to Auto Series Explained. In this video, we're going to be exploring the Auto Pedal's pitch tracking engine, a powerful built-in frequency and tonal analysis engine that allows you to create a myriad of different parameter automations based on precisely tracking the notes you're playing or how your instrument's tone or timbre changes in real time. We're going to be exploring the specific qualities and use cases for all three pitch tracker modes, the role of calibration in each one of them, how to use the ramp parameter, and of course, we'll be creating a whole bunch of exciting pitch responsive sound patches along the way. So let's get started by taking a closer look at the first and perhaps the most versatile pitch mode, the note mode. Note mode is designed to produce a whole wide variety of control voltage outputs using a specific note or center pitch as the tracker's central reference point. And it is up to you to choose and kind of set and calibrate this center pitch and then use the tracker to create different control voltage zones on and around your chosen central pitch. So, to set the central pitch, simply press and hold the on foot switch and play the desired note. So you will see the cursor is turning green. That means that the tracker has heard the note and ready to accept it. So once we release the foot switch, it blinks. So now this calibrated G note, you'll see that it's being displayed in the middle of this pitch LED bar here. And whenever I play a note like an octave above from that G, it's going to be on the top of the pitch bar. And a G below that is going to be on the bottom of the bar. And if I keep going lower, then this note is going to start blinking. And the same goes if I go higher than that. So the higher up I go, the more it goes out of this pitch bar's kind of display range, and the faster blinking is what indicates that. So and when we return home, we're in the center again. And now, as you already probably guessed it, we can switch on automation and we can use the main pitch knob to simply draw in a variety of control voltage zones above and below and around and directly on the calibrated center pitch. So for example, setting the knob at 12 o'clock, you'll feel an indent here, will produce a control voltage zone directly on the calibrated note itself and only on that note. So right? So this is pretty exciting stuff, and there's a million things you can do with a single note delay, but it's up to you how you set up the automation and so on. But this is what we're doing now. We're automating the level for the signal to go into the delay. So now, moving the knob slightly will produce a kind of a gradient zone around the calibrated pitch. The zone can be slightly above the center or slightly below the center. But in this case, we've created kind of a control voltage zone around the calibrated G. And now as I start playing around the G note, you'll hear that reflected in the audio as well. So the closer I get to the calibrated note, the higher the amount of signal that's going to go into the delay's engine. So this is already getting pretty exciting because it all depends on how you calibrate the center pitch. So let's now quickly recalibrate to a different higher note and use this patch and this kind of idea to create kind of a signature lick that can be the hook for a whole section of a song or a part of a solo. So let's set the calibration point to this high E note here. All right, so now if we do some kind of solo runs, as you can see, this is really, really cool because I can recalibrate the notes so easily and so quickly. Okay, so now let's quickly recalibrate to this B note here. Right? And now let's explore the next control voltage shape, which is, if I just keep turning the pitch knob, you'll see that it starts producing this sort of gradient pattern that starts on the calibrated note to create a sort of soft transition point from the newly calibrated B note onwards. So the higher above that note I go, the stronger the control voltage. But before I demonstrate this with audio, I wanted to quickly just grab another cable and patch the second control voltage output into the auto reverb's level knob. So now, when we play this, pretty cool, right? So you can use these longer cables, which are also included in every auto pedal set, to send control voltage across multiple pedals or devices. And that way you can have one note calibration kind of in place, in this case in the auto delays pitch tracker engine, and you have your preferred control voltage shape set up, but you can use that to automate multiple effects at once. So, for example, let's just use the same setup right now and quickly invert that gradient shape, and now everything below the B note is going to gradually get more and more control voltage. So in fact, you can use the included splitter accessory, which is called the auto splitter, and it's included with every auto series pedal, and there will be a separate video on the hardware setup, so you'll learn what's the correct main use for this. But one of the use cases is that you can use it to take a control voltage, such as the one that we have set up here, and route it in here and get 3 additional copies of the same gradual automation that we can use to automate even more parameters at once. But that's something for another time. For now, let's just stay with this dual reverb and delay patch that we have set up here, and let's listen to the minimum and the maximum settings on the pitch knob, which is, as you can probably already guess, which is kind of this gradual pattern cranked up all the way to its extreme, which essentially is this kind of abrupt on-off zone. So in this case, everything that falls below the calibrated B note is going to instantly start producing the full-on control voltage. Right? And if we turn the pitch knob all the way up, past the upper gradient, we crank it. Now, as soon as we play something that's the B note or higher, again, we're getting the full blast control voltage, which is the 5-volt output. So even though we've just explored all these control voltage zones that are all pretty much strictly defined, there's a whole other layer that we can adjust to change the behavior of the pitch tracker's output in general. And that is the ramp parameter, which is this second layer control on the pitch knob. So hold the on switch and turn the pitch knob to adjust the ramp parameter, which is this yellow bar. So the sudden kind of control voltage onsets that we heard earlier, those were produced when the ramp was turned all the way down, so it's kind of this instant onset. But if we increase it, then moving in and out of control voltage zones will produce kind of these smoother curves. So just as an example, so whenever you see that white pitch tracking cursor turning yellow, then that's how you know that you've got the time, that you've got the ramp parameter cranked up. Now let's set the control voltage output to the calibrated note only. All right, next up, let's take a look at the second pitch tracker mode, which is the tone mode. The tone mode is something that we're super proud of, to be honest, because it uses a special type of frequency analysis that's essentially designed to measure the brightness or the timbre of your instrument's output, or the timbre of your playing, if you will. So allowing you to kind of sculpt automation signals based on not the notes themselves, but rather on the instrument's overall brightness or darkness. So let's start by calibrating a value that's going to be our central kind of tone value, which in this case is going to be the neck pickup on the Telecaster. So roughly like slightly on the brighter side, because this is a Tele. All right, and now let's create automation kind of from the tone mode to the amount of flanging effect. And now you'll see that whenever we change our tone parameter, it's going to be reflected on the position of the cursor on the pitch LED bar. Let me turn up the tone, change the pickup, bridge pickup. So now, when we combine all this stuff together and add control voltage zones, either on top or on the bottom, this is where we start getting these really, really cool results. So there's so many ways opening up for me to move into the effect kind of, or away from the effect. So now let's create a zone in the bottom, and let's use the tone knob. Next up is the third and final pitch tracker mode, which is called the volt per octave mode. And this is a special bipolar control voltage generation mode designed primarily for use with synthesizers, essentially allowing you to convert your instrument's audio output into the commonly used voltage system for synthesis. The volt per octave system works in such a way that you start off by tuning your synthesizer to a certain pitch, for example, a C2 note, and that is the default note that the synth produces when it's receiving no voltage input, or 0 volts if you want. And you can now raise the tone of the synthesizer by 1 octave by feeding it 1 volt, so a positive control voltage of 1 volt. Similarly, if you feed it 2 volts, that will raise the note by 2 octaves. And the same logic applies in the negative direction. So to lower the synth by an octave, to produce the C1 note, you would need to feed it a negative 1 volt. So here in the volt per octave mode, with the pitch control set precisely at the 12 o'clock position, this is exactly the precise bipolar 1 volt per octave output that you need to track synthesizers with musical precision. As always is the case with synthesizers, there are sometimes some tuning issues that you can run into, and therefore every time you unbox a brand new auto pedal and set it up for the first time, especially if you want to use it for this purpose, it's important to first perform a manual calibration session. I'm going to quickly show you how it's done. I'm going to switch my scope here to the voltage monitor, but you can do it in many different ways. You can even do it by ear, but the idea is that we need to fine-tune the voltage output for this particular pedal and for this particular synthesizer on the receiving end, right? So that to make sure that it's actually receiving the correct voltage. So hold auto, go out and back into the volt per octave mode. I'm going to now listen to this output and manually offset it so that at the 3 volt mark it's actually giving out an even 3 volts. And now with this knob here we can manually tune the 0 volt position so that it's actually 0 volts. There we go. Okay, so now let's go back to the scope mode. And let's exit the fine-tuning kind of calibration mode by hitting the auto switch. Now we should be perfectly in tune. If you don't have a need, however, to track an oscillator precisely, then you can use the pitch knob to either reduce or increase the scale of the output, all the way from 0.2 volts per octave in the minimal position. So you'll see that, for example, reflected in the scope here. That even though I'm moving quite a bit in terms of my note pitch, it's only affecting the voltage output slightly. And all the way up to a 5 volt per octave increase. So this is my middle C, and you see even moving like by a major third kind of drives the output of the charts here. So it's probably something around 2 or 3 volts. And the same for the downwards. So essentially, this can be used to offset the pitch tracking ratio for controlling other parameters that need a much faster voltage increase. So in this case, I can patch, for example, into the engine selection or bank selection system. So now this is going to be my minimum position. So as you can see, in the modular kind of connectivity system, there is always use for all kinds of bipolar control voltage signals. Additionally, and this is kind of an important thing to mention, is that even though the volt per octave is the synthesizer mode, there's a lot of interesting things you can do with the bipolar volt per octave signal within the auto pedal automation realm. So for example, here I'm going to simply send the same bipolar negative and positive voltage into the level knob for this auto reverb here. And essentially I'll be able to automate it away from the center position, from the 50-50 position with a negative voltage. So if I move away from the calibrated C note, we'll get a dry output. And then if I play above the calibrated C note, I'm going to be producing positive control voltage, and that way creating an automation that's going to turn the knob towards the fully wet output. So now, right? And back. Right, so the volt per octave mode is the only bipolar mode that can produce both positive and negative voltages. But you can use that to create even more interesting automation patches. So now, for example, I'm going to invert this relationship, and the lower notes below the calibrated C point, which is the 0 volt output, that's going to increase the amount of reverb. So. And when I move up, that's going to give us a fully dry output. And we can always introduce some ramping, and we can always recalibrate this central note kind of on the fly. So I don't know, let's change it to a G and see where that takes us. We hope that this video has left you inspired and excited to try out pitch automation all for yourself. And let us know in the comments below, what do you guys think? What do you think we should film next? And please make sure to watch all the other videos in the Explained series, as well as more musical videos that are created by us and our friends in the industry.